Fraser T Smith's Yamaha piano has featured on countless hit tracks. We visited his studio to find out how he and Adele wrote the hit Set Fire to the Rain on an instrument he was once advised to chop up for firewood.
I'm Fraser T Smith, and I'm a writer, producer and artist, and been making music for about 30 years now, professionally. I'd always wanted an upright piano in my studio, and I finally got the space to be able to do that. I didn't know much about pianos at all, so bought this fantastic Yamaha piano for about £1,250, brand new, which I thought was quite a lot of money at the time. I didn't really appreciate how much Steinways cost and these kinds of pianos, and I fell in love with it immediately. It just sounded really bright, which is what I wanted on the records, and when I mic'd it, it gave me the sound that I wanted. So this was around about 2005. The advent of super fast like DAWs and programs. I'm all in on that. You know, I'm not so old school, but I think just having a piano in a studio is something, to me, is something very, very special. So these are the stems from Set Fire to the Rain, and I haven't heard these for a while, but it'd be good to dig in. We've got drums, bass, guitar, keys and synths. I mean, that's interesting. I can't remember what synths I put on. We can have a solo and see. The piano stem, strings, BVs, and then Adele's lead vocal. The track it came from the drums, and my good friend and amazing drummer, Ash Sohn, played the drums on the final record, but the initial pattern came from my Akai MPC 4000. I've been using the Akai MPC 4000 for many, many, many years. Used to have a 2000 when I was a kid in a DPS 16 hard disk recorder. It's one of the first things that I ever used. And then, I don't know, it just feels like home, this machine, to me. I just love the playability of it and the just sort of tactile nature. I guess screen's a bit small by today's standards. You know, the new ones are like more like an iPad, but it's not touch sensitive, but it's a great thing. So yeah, I'll program the beat roughly as it was. So that was looping, and I played the piano along to that. And basically my influence, as weird as it sounds for an Adele song, was, there must have been something that Adele said when we met initially that made me think that this could be something a bit more rhythmic. But for some reason, I was thinking about early U2. So I was thinking about Under a Blood Red Sky, or any of those tracks from like the second U2 album, and just that whole sort of Adam Clayton sort of groove. I was just, I'm a big fan of early U2 basically, and I was just feeling that. So interestingly, I played the bass on this as well. Lots of eighth notes and up the octave kind of fills, and on the bass. That's where my head was at. But which I guess is interesting because I wasn't coming at it from maybe a typical kind of place. But yeah, before the bass went down, it was the piano and drum loop that you hear on the record. So we had the MPC loop on. I was just jamming around ideas. I think maybe before Adele had come in, I got some rough ideas, although not this piano line really cemented, but I just had some ideas. The key, I thought this kind of area, D minor, would be really good for Adele when, going up to that high A, and then a little bit further would be in a really good range for her. So I felt like this that kind of area would work in a D minor. I love that sort of tonality, and I felt like something quite evocative. I love songs that feel like empowering, but I tend to write a lot in minor keys because I just naturally gravitate towards that sort of tonality. But I feel like the chords that you can use around that can also be quite uplifting at the same time. So essentially, D to the F to the C to the G minor. So making it sound super, super simple, which I guess it is really. But I felt like having a piano line that's distinguishable, I feel like most great tracks have, as well as having a great vocal, have some music which is, you could hear the instrumental and you'd know what it was. So obviously if you play these chords on their own, it's kind of dull. But I guess I was reacting to the beat. The other thing about not using MIDI is that we didn't record it and loop it back. I was literally playing that for probably 4 hours while Adele was getting some great melodies, and we developed the sections, and it was written from a point of view of the chords, the drums, and great melodies. And then the lyrics are always a thing which take some time. So this is a very personal song. Adele would come back with would go away into another room and come up with lyrics as I was doing a bit more tracking on the track, adding some different things, and then we'd run some lyrics by me, which were inevitably always amazing. But there were certain elements that Adele didn't feel completely happy with. So I think over the course of the 2 days, we came up with a finished song, but the bridge section took a little while. And always songs, it's easy to look back with kind of rose-coloured spectacles on these songs, and think that it just sort of flowed out. But I think we knew, we had an amazing chorus at the beginning, and I think that Adele came up with a concept which was just amazing, and with her voice, I just thought that this is really, really exciting. But without any lyrics in the pre-chorus, it's not going to be anything. So it wasn't really until the second day where Adele nailed exactly what it was that she she wanted to say and how to build the vocal up to where the chorus was going, then we both kind of breathed this sort of sigh of relief, thinking that we actually had a finished song. But you know, it could have been that the song never even got there. So yeah, very grateful that it did. On the finished recording, I'm pretty sure that it's played. You know, I took a few goes, but my engineer at the time, Beatrice Artola, tracked the piano. And I think also on a songwriting session, you know, you've as the co-writer and as the person who's there sort of encouraging, but again not working in MIDI, you know, I've been playing for 6 hours. So then when it came to record it, you know, you're kind of like, if you can't play it by that time, then maybe call someone, get someone else in. But yeah, I was kind of used to it at that point. I've experimented with different mics. The piano is naturally very, very bright. So we had some Coles, some Rubin mics on there to see how that sounded. It sounded great, but I think the key to this piano is trying to sort of mic it very faithfully. So we used some Neumann KM84s on there, which to me are like fantastic pencil mics, which just show, I was going to say, the piano in all its glory. I don't even know if it's a glorious piano, but it gives the mid-range what it needs, you know, and it cuts through on tracks. I've been using the Neve 33609 compressor on it. I always use Undertone Audio preamps for pretty much everything in the studio because I just love the way they sound. I've had a great relationship with Eric Valentine for many years, and we designed the console together and put that together back in around 2012, and it's just a phenomenal piece of kit, and I love what Eric does. So I just think we've found a great place for how this piano sounds. Adele had said at the very beginning of the session, look, just to let you know, she said, look, I know you're a producer and songwriter, but Rick Rubin's doing my whole album. So the interesting thing is that I went into this thinking that I wasn't going to produce it, but my pride, because Rick Rubin is like a hero of mine, and has been a hero of mine since I was very young, I thought, well, I really want to be proud of this demo so that Rick Rubin, because he's probably never heard of me before, that he'll hear this demo from me and be really impressed, which is what I did. So I was determined to kind of make the drums feel good and make the strings sound authentic. I had a lovely piano tuner who used to come to the studio whenever I used to call him before sessions to tune the piano up. And I think he must have thought I was a studio manager rather than this being my studio, because after tuning the piano, maybe the second time, he pulled me to one side just before he was leaving and said, look, I just want to, you know, tell you about this piano. You've really got to get rid of it. You know, I thought, what? I don't know. Does he know something? Like, are they being recalled, or does he think it was stolen, or like what was going on? I said, well, what? I really like it. Like, why do you think that? He said, it's just absolutely crap. You know, if it was mine, I'd chop it up into pieces and use it for kindling in my wood burner. And I thought, wow, this is really extreme. You know, an extreme reaction. I said, well, yeah, no, I have no intention of selling it, but thanks for the feedback, and I'll see you soon. So I was a bit sort of taken aback by this. Yeah, it's a personal studio. I just thought on lots of levels it felt quite strong. And then I saw him the next time, and we just had a conversation, and he said, so I actually appreciate you're not the studio manager. This is your studio. I said, yeah. He said, so what kind of stuff do you do here? I said, well, I write songs and I produce songs for other people. I produce the songs that I co-write, produce my own music. He said, all right, well, what kind of people come in? I said, well, there's this new-ish artist that's been in recently called Adele. Demo, which was Akai MPC drums, my piano, Adele's vocal, which is pretty much the vocal that we hear now on the final record. The demo she cut in my studio in Fulham is pretty much the same vocal. Programmed strings. I don't think I'd had guitar on it. Live bass that I played. And then Adele came back and said that probably 18 months later, I was always really wanting to know how this song had gone, and said, look, the stuff that I did with Rick was fantastic. Obviously Rick's a legend, but the version that he did of Set Fire to the Rain maybe was a different thing, and it felt a little slower and a little less kind of urgent. She said, I keep coming back to the demo. Would you be willing to finish this off? And if so, what would you need to do to finish it? And I immediately said, well, that's amazing news, because I love the song and I feel like we're pretty close on the demo. I said, I'd want to get Ash Stone on drums. I think the bass I can handle. I may play it again. I may leave it. And I think that this programmed strings, I said I've been working with this amazing string arranger called Rosie Danvers, who I think had been working with Adele before anyway, so they knew each other. But I said, I think we should get Rosie to put some amazing strings down, which is what she did. And I said, I can hear some kind of tremolo guitar, which comes in the middle eight. Kind of subtle, but I always hear it in the middle eight whenever I hear the record, but I'm sure 99.9% of people don't even know there's guitar in that, but it's a layer. The way that worked with Rosie is I'll always do demo strings, so I love programming strings, but she is the absolute legend of string arrangements. So what's great about Rosie is she's incredibly sympathetic to the demo and what people like about that, and then we'll just go, I can hear a run here, I think we could add a ninth on top here, and obviously arrange it fully, because my string arrangements are typically playing chords and then playing higher chords, and there's not a great deal of thought into exactly what instruments are being used. So Rosie kind of takes that apart and all the different sections that I'll give her, maybe I think I had some Mellotron stuff on there. In fact, let's just see, because I'm interested in this. What's this keys and synth stem? I'm sure there's not like some sort of big Juno 106 on this, but I don't know. Let's listen. So basically, a big Mellotron choir is what the synths were, which is cool. So the strings we recorded at Angel Studios in Islington. It's funny because some of the fills, they become, when you hear those fills on a record that becomes popular, lots of those lines are kind of so important. They become sort of woven into the whole. There's a something that they did on the middle eight, which I loved, which I had programmed and they just absolutely nailed, which is in the middle eight, because I really like the chords that it goes to in the middle eight, and I'm flying the flag of middle eights because they seem to be like a forgotten thing now. In like 2-minute 45 songs, we haven't got time for middle eights, but I really like where these chords go, and I love the strings. It was really epic. Interestingly, I think it was a 13-piece orchestra that we tracked up. We did pay Musicians Union rates twice on that, just so you know, we weren't taking advantage of any string players. But yeah, we tend to do that. But obviously it gives an impression of like that. You would think that could be like a 60-piece orchestra at Abbey Road Studio One, you know, with the sound of it. But yeah, just being able to track up and process the strings in a different way. The pizzicato strings, yeah, and overdub. When I mixed the track, I rented a Lexicon 224 reverb, and that is literally all over this track because Adele loves reverb on her voice, but also on everything. An interesting thing I find using a lot of software-based reverbs is that it, to me, is like a thing that when you add software-based reverbs, as good as they are, there comes a point where you can definitely hear it like anything that's swimming in the reverb, which is sometimes what you want. But I think the thing with the 224 is that it sort of soaks up. You can turn it up, and I mean the reverb on this record, there's an incredible amount of reverb on probably a 3.5-4 second decay time with not much pre-delay, whole simulation, and there's so much reverb on it, and it just makes the track sound huge without it sounding like there's just loads of reverb on the track. I don't know if that makes sense. The lead vocal, Adele's lead vocal, was, if I can remember the chain, pretty sure that it was a Wonder Audio CM7 valve condenser microphone through a Neve preamp into maybe the CL1B. It's pretty much the chain. A little bit of EQ going in. The interesting thing with Adele is that I've recorded her in the room on a SM7, and actually the microphone doesn't really seem to make much difference. Not that I'm putting down, because the Wonder CM7 is a brilliant mic, but I've heard Adele sing into an SM7 or a SM57, and it just sounds phenomenal. So it does show that it's more about the quality of Adele's vocal than anything else. But
you never chew in the games you play. You would always win, always win. But I set fire to the rain, watch it pour as I touch your face. When it burned, well, I cried, 'cause I heard it screaming out your name. When I lay with you, I could.
Interesting when you hear records back, there's quite a lot of long delay on there, which was an Echo Boy quarter note and half note delay as well. It's quite prominent throughout the whole thing, but you can hear that there's a lot of reverb on there, and I can't. There was a period where I would duck the return a lot with a compressor plug-in. So as things started to get really loud, it would just duck it slightly. So yeah, it's something that I would use. But yeah, great hearing that vocal again. It's a good vocal. Yeah, I mixed the track, and I think we were just close to it. That's what happens sometimes, you know, where you tend to just want to deliver stuff which sounds pretty final. And then if the decision is made to take it over the line, then I'm more than happy to do that. I think that we just captured something on the demo that we just taken. And I think sometimes when you break things down out of Pro Tools to send it elsewhere, and then it goes through a whole new processing chain, you know, it's definitely going to change. And I think that both Adele and I were really attached to the final sort of production master, like pre-mix. And then I think I spent about a day just experimenting with a few things. I ran it through a Chandler summing mixer, which was a 16 channel summing mixer, so kind of stem mixing really, but just to give it some analog warmth. I think I had a 1176 on Adele's vocal. A lot of it was like the gear that I had. I was as I said, I had the 224 reverb that I'd hired in. It's more about what was available. I didn't have this kind of arsenal of equipment that I was just trying these kind of bespoke pieces of equipment on. I was just using what I had and referencing a few other records and some of Adele's other stuff just to make sure the vocal was in the right place. And it worked. If it was mine, I'd chop it up into pieces and use it for kindling in my wood burner. He hadn't heard some of Adele's music, and this was, to be fair, just after the first album, so it wasn't like Adele was the superstar maybe that she is today. And I could see him thinking about this, and that was that. And he tuned it the next time, and then came in a couple of months later, and I walked into the studio and was just finishing tuning the last set of keys, you know, with a big smile on his face, sort of stroking the piano and just looking at it lovingly. And I thought, it's a bit strange. And he looked at me when I came into the studio and he said, you know, I think I've heard that song that you co-wrote with Adele. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah, Set Fire to the Rain. I said, oh, great. You know, you heard it on the radio because it was played a lot on the radio. He goes, was that you? I said, yeah, it was. He said, did you record the piano line on this piano that I'm tuning? I said, yeah. And he looked at it lovingly and gave it another fond stroke and he went, I always thought this piano's really got something special about it.
That's all for now. If you like what you saw, please be sure to like and share it, and subscribe and click the bell icon so you know when we upload new content to our YouTube. Also find us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Thanks for watching.